Going on with stuff I've received in the mail. I have a lot of stuff here, so let's do Train to Busan. Now, this was something I got from a subscriber, but this is kind of a double thing here. So I got this from a subscriber, but also this is a Patreon request from someone else, and that someone else is Roman Adazio. So thank you to him for becoming a Patreon or a patron on my Patreon. And yeah, so we got Train to Busan. Now, Train to Busan has a animated prequel called Seoul Station, which I have never seen. I think it's a Shudder exclusive, or it's on Shudder. I would love to watch it. It's a full feature-length film. It is directed by the guy who directed this movie, who's also directing the upcoming sequel to this called Peninsula, which is one of my most anticipated films of the year, because Train to Busan, in my opinion, is one of the greatest zombie movies ever. Not just like in years and this decade, or no, of all time. This is one of the best, period. Like, this is arguably, like, very, very high on the zombie list. Like, for good reason. Now, my memory of this movie was pretty good. But I really wanted to go back this time, fully pay attention, and see if that held up. Like, if that held up to scrutiny. Like, is this film as great as everyone says it is, and as great as I claim it to be at times? Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, for so many reasons. So let's talk about the movie. All right. So we got a South Korean film here, which, I mean, can South Korea make any bad films? I'm sure they do. I'm sure they make plenty of them, but I don't see them. So as I've said in the past, we always send our best stuff overseas. Like, I remember talking to someone who was Asian, and they were talking about how there was this like stereotype that Asians were good at math and they were so smart and this and that, and they were like, dude, if you go over to China, or if you go over to wherever, he's like, there's so many idiots. Like, we just send our best people over, so it makes us look like we're all geniuses. Like, we have the same amount of dumbasses over there as you have over here. Like, you guys get like the cream of the crop, the pick of the litter. So it's like all Asians are good at math. It's like, that's just not true. And the same thing with these movies, right? It's like they send the pick of the litter. They send the movies that are critically acclaimed. They send the movies that are really loved by audiences over here. And we're like, Jesus, does South Korea ever make a bad movie? And people over in South Korea are like, oh my God, I watch shit movies all the time from here. You know, it's just that perspective. And I think this is, one of those cases. But that said, I've watched plenty of French movies. I've watched plenty of, Italian movies. I've watched plenty of German movies, whatever. Name your country. And I've seen a ton of trash ones, So even though a lot of them are sending their bests, a lot of shit still slips through the cracks. And with South Korea, that just never seems to happen. So I feel like their quality still speaks for itself because of how much quality we get regardless. So anyway, there you go. South Korean film is incredible. All right, so this movie kind of reigns true to today because, it starts with a quarantine zone. I think we're all familiar with that at this point. Really fucking annoying part of our life right now, but, what are you going to do? And then we get a zombie deer that starts this movie, which I think that might set a weird tone for some people. They're going to be thinking, like, am I watching Black Sheep? Like, is this going to turn into a comedy? Like, when he looks at the camera and he's like a dead zombie deer, you're like, is this going to be a zombie deer movie? Is this going to be a comedy? Is this going to be, what is this? The movie is not that way at all. It's very, very serious. But there's so much heart and there's so much good humor. But it's like perfectly placed humor. It fits the film so well without ever becoming silly. Like, even though this film kind of goes in World War Z, like, territories, like where the zombies are like piling over each other so fast that they're actually like exploding with bodies just pushing forward. It looks absolutely insane at times. Another thing I wanted to say really quick is that I remember the CGI in this being really piss poor with like the zombies and coming at them and everything. But on this view, there was very little of that. Like very, very little. Like when they like push through each other and they like actually almost like explode out, that does kind of look a little silly, but not too bad. And there's very little of it. So I was really surprised at like how much of this movie is practical and how little bad CG stuff there is in this movie. I honestly remember a lot more, and I'm trying to figure out why I remember a lot more. I guess I was just mistaken, and like it just felt like there was so much more than there actually was in the film at the time I watched it. And so now I've said this in the past. I am extremely biased when it comes to daddy-daughter relationships. Like, as soon as you have that dynamic on the screen, you have me invested. So you have to try to lose me at that point. Now, of course, the relationship he has between his daughter and him is nothing like my kids because I am fully invested in their life. They don't have to beg for my attention. They would never, ever, ever deal with me not showing up to their recital where she practiced a song for him and she couldn't sing it because he wasn't there, and he had like his mom record footage so he could watch it later. Like, that reminds me of Robin Williams. Like, Peter Pan did that in Hook, right? Isn't that what they did? He wanted to watch it later. Like, he had to film the baseball games and shit, and he'd watch it later. I think the dad thinks he's being a good guy there. Like, I have shit to do, But I also think that this movie contrasts that very well with a line between him and the big buff tough guy. Now, I wrote his name down, and it's written right here, but it's like Sang HWA. Hawa? Sang Hawa? I don't fucking know. It's a tough guy who's hilarious, by the way, and the best character in this movie, for sure. Not by far, because I love the dad. You don't like him, but then you love him, and the businessman asshole who gets a bunch of people, like almost everyone killed, becomes the absolute antagonist. Like, the zombies are like secondary to how much of an asshole that guy is. Like, that guy's the true villain of the movie. Now, the dad seems like he's going to be the antagonist of the film. He's going to be the asshole who lets his kid down right and left, but he has his big moment, and then the guy, the businessman guy, whatever, piece of shit that ruins everyone's life and even kills the dad in the end, man, you want him dead. Only real negative I have towards this movie, honestly, is that I don't feel like his death is satisfying enough. Like, I wanted to watch that guy torn apart, Day of the Dead style. Like, ripped, every bit of him just screaming agony. You can throw away the, like, I hope you choke on it line or whatever, because I don't want him to have any comedic line. I want him in pure agony throughout the entire, devouring of his body. Like, I want him brutalized. This guy, I need that, I need that, I need to watch him die brutally, So it just doesn't happen in this movie enough for me. Yeah, he has this sad moment where he says he's scared and he wants to go home to his mom and all this and that, and he's like seeing the errors of his ways, maybe. But I don't feel like he is. I feel like he's just, being who he was the whole time. I'm scared. I want to go home. It's all about me. I don't feel like he learned anything. So it's not like it's this moment where he's like sitting there like, oh my God, I've learned my lesson. It's not some big epiphany. It's like, no, I'm still only give a shit about myself. I want me to be taken care of. And then he ends up killing the dad. I know he's a zombie by that point, but I don't give a fuck. Like, he's still responsible because he's the asshole who got on that train, and he got bit because he was pushing somebody else over. Like, he's responsible for everything that happens in the end. Ugh, I hate him so much. But there is that contrasting scene to bring it way back to where I even started on this train of thought, where he's talking to Tough Guy, saying hoo-ah, and he, he thinks he's an asshole. He calls him an asshole and shit, which I think is hilarious. But he's talking to him, and he's like, I get it. Like, dads get kind of all the shit. Like, we got to do all this stuff, but we get shit on for everything we do. Like, we get none of the credit. We do so much, but we get none of the credit. Now, of course, there's some loser dads, deadbeat dads, this and that, and they're just not there, and they don't deserve any credit. But let me tell you something, man. Like, when Mother's Day rolls around, everybody knows it's Mother's Day. I don't even care if they have a mother. I don't care if they have anybody in their life who's even a female. They know it's Mother's Day. They know when it is. They know what day it is. Dude, you could have a woman who thinks her father is the greatest fucking person on earth. You could have a woman who has the greatest husband on earth, she has kids with and is amazing as a father. Whatever. You'll be Saturday, the day before Father's Day. And you'll be like, what are you guys doing tomorrow? And she'll be like, I don't know. Like, why? Is there something going on? And I'm like, you mean, like, the holiday? And she's like, what holiday? Nobody ever knows when it's Father's Day. Nobody gives a shit. Yes, they'll see it and they'll be like, oh, I got to call my dad. Oh, hey, Dad. There's no preparation. There's no, like, things at the fucking, you go out to every restaurant, everybody's taking their mom out. Oh, Mom. Oh, Mom, you're so great. Oh, Mom. Which I'm not saying moms don't deserve it. They absolutely do. I'm not being some fucking hurt person who's like, oh, it should all be for us. Absolutely not. But a dead even, if that person is putting in as much as the mom or more sometimes, where's the dad? So it is kind of ring true for me. And a lot of dads that I know personally, it's like the dads, they do a shitload of work, and they get no fucking respect. But that being said, moms don't get a lot of praise throughout the rest of the year, and dads can sometimes. Where, like, a dad changes a diaper and everyone's like, oh my God, like, he's a guy who changes a diaper? How amazing. And then a woman changes 1,000 of them and they're like, yeah, that's her job. So I guess it kind of evens itself out. There's some bullshit on both sides. There always is. It's never, you always think grass is greener, right? And you're like, oh, it'd be so much better to be that. And then you go over to the other side and you're like, oh, this kind of has its downsides too. You mean I'm expected to pay for the check? That kind of sucks. I don't want to do that. There's downsides to everything. So it's not always the best on either side of the coin. Anyway, but I just think this film does a good job of playing both angles on that, and it's very real. Like, even though the film is set in a fantastical way, or something that probably could never happen, it's still so genuine at its core. Like, it's still very human. Like, even though we're dealing with monsters, the film still remains extremely human throughout. There's so many great character moments. The film is very well paced, but still somehow sneaks in a lot of great character moments. Even if, like, they're short-lived. They're so genuine and they're so right on and they're so quick that, like, you get a lot of bang for your buck in those moments. And I think that's why, like, you get great zombie stuff, which is all pretty inventive and all very fresh feeling, but you also get great characters that feel real and touch you, so the film's masterful. It really, really is, and there's a reason so many love it. Now, of course, there's always the naysayers. Oh, this movie's overrated, whatever, fuck them. Okay, they have their opinion, that's fine, but I disagree, obviously, very heavily. And I think this is very, very much worthy of all the praise that it gets. And man, I hope Peninsula can be even half as good as this. Of course, though, even if it's like, 2/3 as good as Train to Busan, people will still shit on it. Be like, oh my God, it's not the original. That's what people always do. Oh, it's not the original. Oh, it's nothing like the first. It's not as good as the first. So? Is it good? Did you enjoy it? Then it's okay. Like, it's alright. It doesn't have to surpass, where it came from. It doesn't have to surpass the film that came before it. So, whatever. Anyway, moving on. And I like when their vision goes black or it gets dark in there, they can't see and they just kind of become docile. That's really cool. We've seen it in other stuff a little bit, but like I think that they really play with that. And the way they have to get through the cars in this, all the clever ways they come up with, whether it's the phone slide or whether it's crawling up through the place, whether it's, whatever it is, they come up with so many crafty, clever ways to keep it kind of a containment movie while also using its elements to its advantage. Like there's so many, like they don't limit themselves to the confines of something very contained. Like they're like, oh well, there's places for your bags, and the characters have cell phones, and like they're thinking through their limited space, and that's just the sign of great writing. That's a sign of care within your film. You're writing great characters. You're writing great sequences. You're taking a fucking a subgenre that's basically, unoriginal, overinflated with too many moves, and you're somehow creating something fresh. Which I think the zombie subgenre has had tons of successful, original, fresh feeling films in the last like 5 years, and this, of course, is one of them. Although I think this is what? No, this is 2016, right? Because it's 4 years later in Peninsula, and it's actually 4 years later. So perfect. I cannot wait for that movie. I saw the trailer, which I rarely watch trailers, but I just wanted to kind of see the feel of it and whatnot. It looks fucking awesome. So yes, please give me that ASAP. I really hope that does not get pushed to next year or something, because that would be just tragic. The dad in this has to listen to his mom die on the phone. That's pretty damn brutal. They pull into the station and there's this like huge massacre that happens. All of the zombie stuff, all the zombie attacks, all this. Now there's not a lot of gore to be spoken of in this film. That's another downside, I guess. But because the action is so frequent and the action is so well paced, and it plays out more like an action movie than a horror movie a lot of the times. Like the pacing of the movie, the way the action sequences are constructed and executed. That's not to say there isn't horror, because it's absolutely a horror movie. I'm not even trying to suggest otherwise, because there are moments where it's terrifying. Like when those zombies are coming at them, like when they're going to the bottom of the escalator and they see the zombies and they think they're like the soldiers, and then the zombies turn and they have to like run up an escalator that's going in reverse as zombies are coming at them. They're like falling over each other to get up. That's terrifying stuff. So there's plenty of horror moments in this that work. But as I said, it plays out more action horror than horror, like atmospheric, slow burn, build horror. No. This movie is just balls to the wall the whole time. There's very little arc to this movie. It's kind of like it starts a little slower, but like once the zombies hit, it's just kind of like a straight line, like right through of just pure action. I should put it all the way up here because it's like dialed up to 11 for so much of the movie. But great stuff. I like that the people are very, that they genuinely try to help one another, that they're there for each other. That makes me like the characters. That makes me want them to get out of this. Makes me want to root for them. That makes me sit there and go, fuck yeah, like get out of there, get this, get that. And then when the people betray each other, when the people turn on each other, when people do what they inevitably do in fearful situations like that, you're also like, you're bummed out with them. Like, why'd you have to go there? Why'd you have to do that? You guys were doing so well. And like, you feel these big, emotional cues, and it's good stuff, man. So good. So good. And this is that example of where the zombies actually could take out the military. I do believe that they could overpower the military. The slow zombies, no chance. But these guys, the fast-ass ones like this, hell yeah. They actually take the time, just like in World War Z, so another World War Z thing here. But they actually take the time to armor up. Now, they don't put anywhere near enough armor, but just an attempt at all in the movie is so exciting for me to even see. I'm like, oh, thank you for actually like armoring up your fucking forearms and using it. And when they go through and Sang, we'll just call him Sang goes through there and he just starts leveling these things, and then the dad's coming through with like a shield and he's like hitting him, and the other kid has a baseball bat. All that shit is just fantastic. It almost like reminds me of Old Boy, where it's just like a hallway scene where they're just going down and they're just fighting and they're beating the shit out of zombies. That actually would have been a cool shot, although they probably would have said it was like plagiarizing if they would have done it, but still really, really cool regardless how it's all shot. Good stuff. And then they lock them out, which is such a dick move. But I love that when they get in, they finally let them go. And this is when Sang dies, and that is such a tragedy because he's the coolest guy. Like his conversations he has, he's so funny, he's so charismatic, he's so great. I'm so excited when I looked him up to see that he's going to be one of the main characters in the Eternals, the MCU. He's going to be in the MCU. It's so exciting. Like I want to see every fucking movie this guy's in because he's just so great in this movie. The dad is too, so I'm gonna look further into him. I've seen him in other stuff, but anyway, his death, so tragic, just so tragic. And this dude is like a man's man. You know, he goes in and he grabs one of them and he like picks him up like sideways and he like pushes him back and he's like holding him as long as he possibly can. He's fighting off the zombie virus as strongly as he can, man. This is like this heroic moment. And this is that heroic moment where he actually buys them the necessary time. Like it makes sense why he stays back and dies. I mean, at this point he's already bitten, so he might as well do this anyways, but shit, you still don't want to be, brutalized by zombies that are like eating you. But it makes sense that he would do this in that moment. So he does do it, and he buys them the time to get into that room, close the door, and get in there, and then they kick him out. And then the granny, I love that the old lady gets up and just lets the zombies in. Like, fuck it, fuck these guys, fuck it all. I don't want to live without my my friend there or whatever. And boom, they all come in, kill them all, and then the asshole lives. He goes in the bathroom with the other guy, and then he pushes, like he purposely kills this dude to get away. He purposely throws him to the wolves and runs away. In that moment, he's irredeemable. He is beyond irredeemable. This is not a character moment where you can come in. This ain't a Vader moment. This is different. This is cowardice. This is murder. This is every horrible thing you can imagine. And you just want this guy dead. When that freaking train, there's so many sacrifices in this movie, and I feel like they earn all of them. Like there's just moments, these great character sacrifice moments, and there's these betrayal moments that are so felt. Even though there's this train conductor guy who you don't even know, but he comes out to help the business guy, and the business guy fucks him over, and he like lays him on the ground. Like you feel horrible for this guy who made that decision that ultimately led to his death, because there's such a betrayal from this character that you've already had set up and want dead. So there's so much good going on there, and then you get these other really great moments where like the train comes to a standstill as it falls over, and then they're trapped under it, and all the zombies are on the glass and it's breaking, and then you have like the homeless vagrant looking dude who's been like mentally distraught the entire time and could only speak in like 2-word sentences. He has his back sacrifice moments. This is the guy who's afraid. This was the guy who earlier in the movie was more of like the businessman character. He was so distraught over, he wanted to live. He was so afraid, but he pulled through his bullshit. Like he has the exact reverse effect of the other guy. Like he pulls through his bullshit and he makes that right decision to save the kid, to save the pregnant woman. He goes over there and he holds them off, and then he's trapped under there as the dad's trying to pull that thing away, and he gets them out of there. And then boom, there you go. He fucking sacrifices himself and all the windows break. Terrifying stuff. And then you have the last stand of the dad, and he goes and he fights and he loses his life, and he has to, and there's that moment where, and it's so sad and it's so real, and it's like I feel like this moment in the movie, I feel like the infection smile that he gives at the end when he's like remembering the birth of his daughter, and he's having this like life flashing before his eyes moment. That's like the big emotional moment of the movie, but almost so much so that it's like the point of the movie. Like, it took this tragedy for him to realize the gift he had in his daughter. Like, before that, he just didn't get it. Like, he brought her a Wii, and she's like, I already fucking have a Wii, and you missed my recital. Like, you're missing the important things. You're not seeing the importance of me. She doesn't even want to be there. This is the whole reason they're even on the train. This is why he dies, is like, because he has to take his daughter home early because she doesn't even want to be around him, because he doesn't really want to be around her. And it takes this tragedy. It takes that moment with Sang. It takes that moment with the homeless looking dude. It takes those moments, and it takes that moment with his daughter and that talk that he has with her, where she's just like, don't leave me, and all this stuff. And then she's like, I told you, like, I couldn't sing because you weren't there, and I practiced for you. And he has these moments where he's going to be a dick, and all he cares about is himself. And she calls him out for this. Like, you only give a shit about yourself. That's how it's always been. That's how it's always gonna be. This is why I wanted to go. This is why mom left. This is why it is. And he has those moments throughout, but he like builds his character. This is such a building of a character movie, and it's so profound. And he has that moment where he's infected, and it sucks because you don't want him to die. You don't want anyone to die outside of the business guy. But outside of him, like, you really don't want the dad to die. You really don't want Sang to die. You don't want that homeless looking dude. He probably isn't homeless. He's just fucked up. So I feel like that's, a disservice to his character. But whatever he is, like, you don't want these guys to die, but their moments are so heroic that they build such a great scene that it's like, fuck, like, in the context of the film, it's so great that of course I didn't want him to die, but at least it was for a purpose. Like, the scenes where a character dies and you're like, that was it? That was their death? Like, what a disgrace to such a great character. Like, how could you do him like that? That's not how this movie plays out. This movie plays out so much differently, to where we get that smile where the dad's dying that you don't want to die, but you're like, you feel that moment, and you're like, holy shit. Like, he could have went the rest of his life and never felt that moment. Never been connected to his daughter, never realized. And it's the futility of it all, yeah, because he's not going to get to be with her, but at least he has that moment before he dies. He gets that moment of clarity, that moment of like love, and that moment of connection that he never really felt before, but he always knew he should have. That moment that he had when she was born, and he lost sight of it. And in that moment before he dies, before he makes his heroic moment to jump off the train to save them, and she's screaming, and there's like that, that juxtaposed where she's screaming and he's here, and she's just like freaking out, and it's all silent, and he smiles. It's like tragic and beautiful, and it's all so well connected, and it's so emotionally felt. You're feeling like almost a joy and a sense of like gratitude for his understanding of like what life all was about and what he should have been focusing on. But he has that moment. It's so good for him, but it's also like so tragic for his daughter, and you feel those two emotions kind of fighting for your emotions. But man, what a fantastic sequence! What a fantastic sequence! And then she goes, and they're about to get shot, and she has her moment where she gets her bravery. Like, this is for her father. Her father's dead. She's honoring him. She's giving that song that she couldn't be in front of her class. This is such a great callback to the beginning of the movie, and it has such an emotional weight to it. It's not just some setup where it's like it's redone later, and it's like, like, does that really fit here? No, this fits. Like, this is her moment. Like, she's singing this in honor of her father, and in that moment, that's the savior of her life, and boom, they get taken in. And that's, they were just about to get shot. We were about to have that Night of the Living Dead ending where the main guy gets shot, and it's like, oh man, how fucked up. But this one, the girl comes in, she's with the pregnant woman, he's about to take the shot, and you hear the voice, you hear the singing, and it's like she's crying, and the performance by this little girl, the performance by everyone is so great. But a little kid, of course, is usually the one that fucks performances up, and this one is fantastic. What a fantastic performance by this little girl. But she sings that song in honor of her father, and it's so heartwarming, it's so touching, and it's so sad, it's so tragic, but it's so uplifting because it's like what saves her life. And it's so fucking fantastic, man. What a beautiful ending. What a great film. Peninsula soon. Hopefully I get to watch Soul Station before it. No, I will watch it before it. Anybody have an update on when Peninsula is supposed to drop? I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to review it. Thank you to Roman Adazio for this, and thank you to the person who sent me Train to Busan. You guys rock. If you want to join the Patreon, let me know. We can send you over to the link, whatever. You know, I hate promoting the channel, but fuck, what a great movie. All right, adios.